a familiar face in a blurry photo. That's all it took for Lisa Taylor to collapse on her kitchen floor, phone still clutched in her trembling hand. The man in the background of a stranger's vacation photos posted on Facebook had the same crescent-shaped scar above his right eyebrow, a scar her brother Tyler had carried since age 8 when he fell from their treehouse. The brother who had been declared legally dead 11 years ago after his car plunged into the murky waters of Lake Champlain on a stormy October night. The vacation photos were taken 3 days ago in a small coastal town in Portugal, 6,000 miles from where Tyler's empty, damaged vehicle was recovered. No body was ever found despite weeks of searching the lake. Now this single frame from a tourist's casual beach photo threatened to unravel everything Lisa had painfully accepted about her brother's fate. Tyler Taylor, 27 at the time of his disappearance, was an up-and-coming indie rock singer whose debut album had just started gaining national attention. The discovery happened when Lisa was mindlessly scrolling through Facebook and spotted the familiar face in a travel group she had joined to plan her own European vacation. The man in the background was sitting at a cafe table, partially obscured but undeniably familiar. Not just the scar, but the way he held his coffee cup with 3 fingers, a quirk Tyler had developed after a guitar-playing injury. Those who knew Tyler described him as magnetic on stage, but intensely private off it. He would spend hours writing lyrics in the small apartment above his parents' garage in Burlington, Vermont. Each morning he'd walk to the same coffee shop, order the same drink, a large black coffee, and sit by the window, watching people pass by as he scribbled notes in a worn leather journal his grandfather had given him. He rarely went anywhere without that journal. When authorities searched his submerged car, the journal was missing, one of many details that never made sense about his disappearance. Tyler had a ritual before each show. He would call Lisa no matter where he was and sing her the first verse of whatever new song he was working on. "It's my good luck charm," he'd always say. The night he disappeared, Lisa's phone never rang. When she called him, it went straight to voicemail. Unusual for Tyler, who always kept his phone charged and nearby. That was the first sign something was wrong. By morning, local authorities had found his car in Lake Champlain, driver's door open, headlights still burning beneath the water. The investigation initially focused on the obvious, a tragic accident on a stormy night, a young man perhaps distracted by his phone or swerving to avoid an animal on the road. But the absence of Tyler's body raised questions. Search teams scoured the lake for weeks. The water was cold enough to preserve a body, experts said. It should have surfaced or been found by divers. What happened to Tyler Taylor? The discovery of Tyler's damaged cell phone in the car revealed something strange. The last call made wasn't to Lisa as usual before a show, but to an unknown international number that investigators couldn't trace. The call lasted 4 minutes and ended just 20 minutes before Tyler's estimated time of accident. Who was on the other end of that call? And why would Tyler, known for his close relationship with his sister, break his pre-show ritual to call a mysterious international number instead? As investigators dug deeper, they found that Tyler had withdrawn $12,000 in cash from his bank account 2 days before the accident. Almost all the money he had. His agent reported that Tyler had cancelled 3 upcoming shows without explanation, something completely out of character for the dedicated performer who once played through a 102-degree fever rather than disappoint fans. Tyler's roommate mentioned that in the days before his disappearance, he seemed agitated, checking the locks on their apartment multiple times before bed, and at one point mentioned feeling like he was being watched. Was Tyler running from something or someone? The discovery of the money withdrawal shifted the investigation. Was this an accident or something else entirely? Detectives began interviewing everyone in Tyler's circle, his bandmates, his manager, ex-girlfriends, and industry contacts. One bandmate, Alex Novak, mentioned that Tyler had been working on songs for a new album, material he described as darker, more personal, but Tyler had been secretive about it, not wanting anyone to hear the new songs until they were finished. Tyler had mentioned that the new material was inspired by some family history he had recently uncovered. 8 weeks into the investigation came the first major breakthrough. A gas station attendant about 20 miles north of the accident site reported seeing someone matching Tyler's description around 2 a.m. the night of the disappearance, nearly 3 hours after his car went into the lake. The man had purchased a baseball cap, bottled water, and prepaid phone card, paying in cash and keeping his head down, avoiding the security cameras. When shown a photo lineup, the attendant identified Tyler with about 80% certainty. If this was indeed Tyler, how did he end up miles away from his submerged car? And where was he going? The investigation took another turn when Lisa, while going through a box of her brother's childhood possessions, found letters addressed to their mother from a man named Mateo in Portugal. The letters were dated more than 30 years prior, stopping abruptly the year before their mother married their father. When confronted, their parents revealed a long-buried secret. Their mother had been engaged to a Portuguese musician before meeting their father. The relationship had ended when she chose to stay in America rather than move to his homeland. Could this connection to Portugal explain the international phone call and now possibly Tyler's presence in a Portuguese coastal town? Lisa took the Facebook photo to authorities, who initially seemed skeptical. 11 years had passed. Memories fade, and wishful thinking can make anyone see what they want to see in a blurry background figure. But when facial recognition software matched the partial face in the photo to Tyler's driver's license photo with 67% confidence, not conclusive but significant, police agreed to reopen the case. The photo had been posted by a tourist named Emma Watson, who had been traveling through southern Portugal. When contacted by investigators, Emma confirmed the photo was taken at a small cafe in Cascais, a coastal town near Lisbon, but she hadn't noticed the man in the background and couldn't provide any additional information. As news of the potentially reopened case spread, an anonymous tip came in that changed everything. Someone claiming to be a former crew member on a private yacht reported picking up a man matching Tyler's description from a secluded cove near Burlington in the early morning hours after Tyler's car was found in the lake. The informant claimed the man paid cash for passage to Canada, mentioning plans to eventually make his way to Europe. The tipster provided details about Tyler's distinctive tiger tattoo on his right shoulder, information that had never been released to the public. How did this person know about the tattoo, unless they had actually seen Tyler that night? Investigators tracked down the yacht's owner, a wealthy businessman with connections to the music industry who had recently died of natural causes. Financial records showed the yacht had indeed been in Lake Champlain the night of Tyler's disappearance, and its next port of call was Montreal. Immigration had no record of Tyler entering Canada, but with cash and determination, borders can be crossed without leaving official traces. Was this elaborate disappearance planned? And if so, why would a rising star with a promising future abandon everything and everyone he knew? The answer began to emerge when detectives revisited the lyrics of Tyler's last known songs. One line in particular stood out: "Some secrets should stay drowned, but the dead always find their voice." Tyler's producer mentioned that Tyler had been researching his family history and had become increasingly paranoid in the weeks before his disappearance. He had mentioned discovering something that changes everything, but wouldn't elaborate. What family secret had Tyler uncovered that might have driven him to such drastic measures? Further investigation into the mysterious Mateo revealed he wasn't just any Portuguese musician, but a member of a once prominent family in Portugal, with alleged connections to organized crime in the 1980s. Records showed that Mateo had died under suspicious circumstances shortly after Tyler's mother broke off their engagement. Was there more to this past relationship than a simple romance cut short by distance? And what might Tyler have discovered about this connection that could have put him in danger? While these questions swirled, Lisa made a decision. She would go to Portugal herself. Armed with the Facebook photo and her unshakable belief that her brother was alive, she booked a flight to Lisbon, determined to find the cafe in Cascais and begin her search. Before leaving, she received a strange package in the mail with no return address. Inside was a weathered copy of The Count of Monte Cristo, Tyler's favorite book, with certain passages highlighted and a handwritten note on the inside cover that simply read, "Some disappearances are necessary. Look for me where the music never stopped." The handwriting matched Tyler's. Upon arriving in Cascais, Lisa found the cafe from the Facebook photo easily enough, a small establishment called Melodia on a cobblestone street near the beach. The staff didn't recognize Tyler's photo, claiming many tourists pass through daily. But when Lisa mentioned music, an older waiter's expression changed subtly. He suggested she visit a local music shop owned by an American expat who had lived in town for about 10 years. The shop, Second Verse, was tucked away on a side street. its windows filled with vinyl records and vintage instruments. The shop was empty when Lisa entered, except for a man with his back turned tuning a guitar. When he turned around, Lisa's heart nearly stopped, but it wasn't Tyler. The man introduced himself as Michael, originally from Boston, who had opened the shop after needing a fresh start. When Lisa showed him Tyler's photo, Michael studied it carefully before saying he didn't recognize him. But as Lisa was leaving, Michael asked a curious question. "The man you're looking for, does he have a scar above his right eyebrow?" When Lisa confirmed this detail, one not visible in the photo she had shown him, Michael's expression changed. "Come back tomorrow after closing," he said quietly. "There's someone who might want to talk to you." That night in her hotel room, Lisa received a text from an unknown number. "Some ghosts should stay buried. Go home and forget what you think you saw." Was this a threat? A warning? Advice from someone who cared? Despite her growing fear, Lisa was more determined than ever. The next day, she returned to the music shop at the appointed time, heart racing with anticipation and dread. Michael locked the door behind her and led her through the back of the shop, down a narrow alley and into a small courtyard hidden between buildings. Sitting at a table back to the entrance was a man with familiar shoulders and the same posture Lisa would recognize anywhere. When he turned around, there was no doubt. Older, with a beard now streaked with grey, but unmistakably Tyler. Brother and sister stood frozen, 11 years of separation hanging between them like a physical barrier. "You shouldn't have come," were his first words, but his eyes filled with tears as he embraced her. Over the next hours, Tyler revealed the truth. While researching their family history, he had discovered that their mother's former fiancé, Mateo, had been murdered shortly after she left Portugal. Not by random violence as reported, but by members of a criminal organization who believed he had stolen something valuable from them. Before his death, Mateo had hidden whatever it was and left a series of cryptic clues about its location. When Tyler began asking questions about this history, those same people, or their descendants, had taken notice. He started receiving threats, subtle at first, then increasingly direct. Tyler explained that the night of his accident was actually a carefully orchestrated escape. He had been warned that not only his life, but the lives of his family members were in danger. The anonymous call that night came from someone claiming to have information about Mateo, warning him that he was being followed and needed to disappear immediately. Tyler had staged the accident, made his way to the pre-arranged pickup point, and eventually to Europe using various false identities. He had been living under a new name in Portugal, trying to piece together what had really happened to Mateo and what secret was worth killing for, and whether it still posed a danger to their family. For 11 years, Tyler had lived as Miguel Santos, a music teacher and occasional performer at small venues. He had built a quiet life, always careful to stay away from cameras and social media. The photo that Lisa had seen was a rare mistake. He usually avoided tourist areas during peak season. He had kept tabs on his family from afar, using secure methods to check on them occasionally, never contacting them directly for fear of putting them in danger. As their conversation continued into the night, Tyler revealed the most shocking discovery of all. He had reason to believe that their father knew more about Mateo's death than he had ever admitted. Financial records Tyler had managed to access suggested their father had received a substantial sum of money around the time he started dating their mother. Money that helped him start his business and build their comfortable life. Was it possible their father had been involved in Mateo's death? Or had he simply been paid to keep their mother away from Portugal and the danger that lurked there? Tyler didn't know for certain, but these questions had haunted him for years. Just as Tyler was explaining his suspicions, Michael burst into the courtyard, panic evident on his face. "They know she's here," he said urgently. "Someone's been asking about her all over town." Within minutes, Tyler was leading Lisa through a maze of narrow streets, explaining that they needed to get to a safe house where they could figure out their next move. Lisa's head was spinning, not just from the rapid pace, but from the revelations about their family and the reality that her brother's life was still in danger after all these years. The safe house turned out to be a small apartment above another music shop in a neighboring town. Once there, Tyler showed Lisa what he had managed to piece together. Mateo had apparently been involved with a group that smuggled valuable artifacts during Portugal's turbulent political period in the 1970s. One particular item, believed to be a document or ledger containing names of powerful people involved in the operation, had disappeared around the time of Matteo's death. For years, certain people had been searching for it, believing it was still hidden somewhere. Tyler believed their mother had known nothing about Matteo's illegal activities, but someone had suspected she might have information or access to whatever was missing. Tyler's research into their family history had inadvertently reactivated this old search, drawing attention to him and potentially to his family. His death had been the only way he could think to protect everyone while he tried to uncover the full truth. As dawn approached, Tyler made a difficult decision. He would return to Vermont with Lisa. After 11 years of hiding, he was tired of living in shadows. Together, they would confront their father about what he knew, find whatever had been hidden all those years ago, and hopefully put an end to the danger once and for all. But first, they needed to be careful about how they returned. If those watching Lisa realized Tyler was alive, they might be in even greater danger. Using contacts Michael had in the sailing community, they arranged passage on a private boat to the United Kingdom, where they could then fly to Canada and drive across the border into Vermont, avoiding the direct scrutiny that might come with flying straight to the United States. During their journey, Lisa updated Tyler on everything he had missed. Their mother's battle with cancer 5 years earlier. She had survived but was weaker now. Their father's semi-retirement, his own memorial service where hundreds of fans had gathered to remember his music. Tyler listened with a mixture of sadness and guilt, knowing his decision, though made to protect them, had caused immeasurable pain. When they finally reached Vermont 2 weeks later, they didn't go directly home. Instead, they went to a cabin owned by Lisa's college friend, a place where they could regroup and plan their approach. Tyler was nervous about seeing his parents, particularly his father, after so many years, especially given what he suspected. What if he was involved in something terrible? Tyler asked Lisa, as they sat on the cabin's porch watching the sunset over the same lake that had supposedly claimed his life. What if everything we thought we knew about our family is a lie? Lisa had been wrestling with the same questions since Tyler's revelations in Portugal. We deserve the truth, she said finally, whatever it is. They decided to confront their father alone first, without their mother present, to shield her from the initial shock and potential fallout of what they might learn. The next day, they called their father and asked him to meet Lisa at a quiet restaurant outside of town, saying she had important news to share. When he arrived and saw Tyler sitting beside Lisa, their father went pale, gripping the edge of the table for support. "You're alive," he whispered, tears forming in his eyes. His reaction seemed genuine, shock, disbelief, and overwhelming joy, not the reaction of someone who had been involved in threatening his son's life. When they carefully began asking about Matteo and the past, however, their father's demeanor changed. He became quiet, defensive, looking around the restaurant nervously. "Not here," he said finally. "There are things you need to know, but not in public." He suggested they meet at his office after hours where they could talk privately. Tyler and Lisa exchanged glances. Was this a genuine offer to reveal the truth, or was their father setting a trap? Deciding they had come too far to turn back, they agreed to meet that evening. Tyler would stay hidden outside as a precaution, while Lisa went in first to make sure their father was alone. If anything seemed suspicious, she would send a text message with a pre-arranged code word, and Tyler would disappear again. At the appointed time, Lisa entered her father's office building, the small insurance company he had built from nothing over 30 years. The lights were low, and the space felt eerily quiet without the usual bustle of employees. Her father was waiting in his corner office, looking older and more tired than she had ever seen him. After confirming they were alone, Lisa signaled for Tyler to join them. What their father revealed over the next few hours changed everything they thought they knew about their family. Yes, he had known about Matteo's death and its connection to criminal elements. No, he hadn't been directly involved. The truth was more complicated. Their mother had fled Portugal after discovering what Matteo was involved in, fearing for her safety. Their father, who had been working as a risk analyst for an international insurance company at the time, had been assigned to help her relocate as part of a private witness protection arrangement. They had fallen in love during this process. The money that had started their father's business had indeed come from unusual sources, but it was actually from Matteo himself. Before his death, knowing he was in danger, Matteo had arranged for their mother to receive his legitimate assets if anything happened to him. The money had been moved through various accounts to hide its origin, eventually reaching their parents years later when it was deemed safe. As for the missing item people were still searching for, their father had a shocking revelation. It had been hidden in plain sight in their family home for decades. The beautiful hand-carved chess set that had sat on a shelf in their living room, a gift supposedly from their mother's Portuguese friend, contained the microfilm records hidden inside the hollowed bases of the chess pieces. Their mother had brought it with her without knowing its significance. Matteo had given it to her as a parting gift, telling her to keep it safe always. Their father had discovered the truth about the chess set years ago, when someone had broken into their home while they were on vacation, taking nothing but thoroughly searching every room. Concerned, he had examined the chess pieces and discovered the hidden compartments. Rather than involve the authorities or tell their mother, who had built a new life and wanted no connection to the past, he had removed the microfilm and stored it in a secure deposit box, telling no one. "I thought it was over," their father said, his voice breaking, until Tyler started asking questions about Matteo and Portugal. Somehow they found out he was making inquiries, and the danger returned. "I tried to warn him discreetly to stop digging, but I was too late." Tyler was stunned. "The anonymous emails telling me to let sleeping dogs lie. That was you?" His father nodded. "I didn't know who else might be monitoring your communications. I couldn't be direct. When I realized you were in real danger, I tried to reach you the night of your disappearance, but your phone went straight to voicemail." The final piece fell into place. Tyler had staged his disappearance believing he was protecting his family from unknown threats, not realizing his father was trying to protect him from the same danger. 11 years of separation based on fear and misunderstanding. Their father went to his office safe and removed a small metal box. Inside was the microfilm he had removed from the chess pieces more than 15 years earlier. This contains names, dates, locations, evidence of an international smuggling operation that involved some people who are still powerful today. "I've kept it as insurance in case they ever came after our family, but maybe it's time to end this once and for all." Together, they decided to take the evidence to a trusted FBI contact their father had known for years. The next morning, as they prepared to leave for the meeting, they received an unexpected visitor at Lisa's house, where they had spent the night. Their mother. Their father had told her everything, unable to keep such a momentous secret from his wife any longer. The reunion between Tyler and his mother was emotionally overwhelming. 11 years of grief washed away in an instant as she held her son, touching his face in disbelief. "I knew," she whispered. "Somehow, I always knew you weren't gone." She had brought something with her, Tyler's old leather journal which she had kept by her bedside since his disappearance. "I think you'll need this for your next songs," she said, smiling through tears. With the evidence turned over to federal authorities and promises of witness protection if necessary, the family began the complex process of reintroducing Tyler to the world. The story they gave publicly was simpler than the truth. Suffering from stress and undiagnosed mental health issues, Tyler had staged his death and been living abroad, recently reconnecting with his family after seeking treatment. It was a story many were skeptical of, but it provided the cover needed while investigations into the evidence proceeded quietly. In the months that followed, several arrests were made across Europe and the United States. Older men in positions of power who had been involved in the smuggling operation decades earlier and had continued to protect their interests through intimidation and occasionally violence. The microfilm evidence, though old, provided the missing links authorities had sought for years. Tyler, now feeling safe for the first time in over a decade, began writing music again. His new songs carried the weight of his experiences, the isolation, the fear, the loss of years that could never be reclaimed. When he finally performed publicly again, at a small venue in Burlington under heightened security, the emotion in the room was palpable. Fans who had mourned him, friends who had missed him, and family who had never given up hope, watched as Tyler Taylor returned to life, his voice perhaps deeper, but his passion for music undiminished. The case became a media sensation. The indie rock singer who had returned from the dead, the family conspiracy spanning generations, the international criminal element. Documentaries were produced, books were written, and Tyler's new album, titled Necessary Ghosts, debuted at #1. The final track, a haunting ballad called 11 Years of Silence, became an anthem for those who had experienced loss and found hope again. For the Taylor family, the public fascination was both a blessing and a burden. They gave limited interviews, focusing on the emotional journey rather than the criminal elements that were still being adjudicated in courts around the world. They established a foundation to help people dealing with trauma and separation from family, channeling the attention into something constructive. Lisa, whose Facebook discovery had set everything in motion, found herself questioning reality sometimes. Had it really been chance that led her to that travel group, to that specific photo? Or had Tyler perhaps orchestrated the discovery when he felt it might finally be safe to return? She never asked him directly, preferring to believe in the serendipity of it all. Some questions were better left unanswered. As for the cafe in Portugal where the photo was taken, it became a minor tourist attraction, with visitors hoping to catch a glimpse of where the famous story had turned. Michael's music shop thrived, though Michael himself eventually moved on. His connection to Tyler's years in hiding never fully explained to the public. The chess set that had unknowingly housed dangerous secrets for decades was donated to a museum, its secret compartments now empty, but its significance preserved. Tyler sometimes visited it, marveling at how something so ordinary-looking could have caused such extraordinary disruption to so many lives. 11 years after his car plunged into Lake Champlain, Tyler stood on the shore of that same lake, watching the sunset with his family beside him. The water that had supposedly claimed his life now represented something different, the depths to which one might go to protect those they love, and the possibility of emerging again, changed but intact. The true crime podcasts and documentary series continued to speculate about details the family never confirmed or denied. How much had their father really known? Was Tyler's mental health story just a convenient cover? Had there been others helping him during his years in hiding? The public would never know the complete truth. Some parts of the story belonged only to those who had lived through it. In interviews, when asked about the 11 years he was presumed dead, Tyler gave the same careful answer. Sometimes disappearing is the only way to find yourself again. It was cryptic enough to maintain the mystery that now surrounded him like an aura, adding to his mystique as an artist who had literally returned from the grave. Lisa eventually wrote a memoir about her experience, focusing not on the sensational elements, but on the emotional journey of losing and finding her brother. In the final chapter, she addressed the question many had asked her. Did she ever resent Tyler for allowing her to believe he was dead for so many years? Her answer was thoughtful. Grief and joy are two sides of the same coin. You can't fully understand one without experiencing the other. I lost my brother for 11 years, but that loss made his return all the more precious. Some lessons can only be learned through absence. The last public piece of the story came 3 years after Tyler's return, when he married his longtime Portuguese girlfriend Sophia, who, it turned out, had been Michael's cousin and part of the small circle who had known Tyler's true identity during his years in hiding. They held the ceremony on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic in Cascais, the ocean connecting the two countries that had shaped his journey. His father walked Sophia down the aisle, her own father having passed years earlier, in a symbol of the blending of past and present, secrets and truths, endings and beginnings. As the sun set on their wedding day, Tyler performed a new song, written specifically for the occasion. The lyrics spoke of false deaths and real rebirths, of identities shed like skins, of love that persists across oceans and years. Those present described it as his most powerful performance yet. The voice of a man who had lost everything, found himself in that loss, and returned to reclaim not the life he had left behind, but something new and perhaps more authentic. The story of Tyler Taylor, his disappearance, his years in hiding, and his remarkable return became more than just another true crime sensation. It became a modern parable about family secrets, the lengths we go to for protection, and the possibility of resurrection in a world that too quickly declares things dead and buried. For those who followed the case closely, the most compelling evidence wasn't found in the criminal investigations or media exposés, but in the simple fact that sometimes, against all odds, what we have lost can find its way back to us. And somewhere in Portugal, in a small coastal town where an American singer once disappeared into a new identity, visitors still occasionally report seeing a man with a distinctive scar above his right eyebrow, sitting in a cafe, writing in a leather journal. The locals neither confirm nor deny these sightings, having learned long ago that some stories belong to those who lived them, not to those who merely wished to tell them. For Lisa Taylor, who once collapsed on her kitchen floor at the sight of a familiar face in the background of a stranger's vacation photo, The truth was both simpler and more complex than any outsider could understand. She had lost her brother to a false death, found him through an accidental photo, and in the process discovered that sometimes the most important journeys are the ones that bring us back to ourselves. 11 years after his disappearance, Tyler's voice was singing again, not just on stages or recordings, but in the everyday moments of family life that had been restored to them against impossible odds. Every year on the anniversary of Tyler's death, the Taylor family now gathers not for remembrance but for celebration, not of the deception that separated them, but of the truth that eventually reunited them. They call it their Resurrection Day, a private joke that holds the weight of their shared history. And if visitors to Lake Champlain sometimes report seeing a family sitting on the shore at sunset, raising a toast to the water that supposedly claimed one of their own, few understand the true significance of that ritual. The final note in this remarkable story came when federal authorities finally closed the last case connected to the smuggling operation exposed by the microfilm evidence. The official statement acknowledged an anonymous source, whose contribution had been instrumental in bringing decades-old crimes to light. Tyler watched the news announcement with his family, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Some ghosts," he said quietly, "make the best witnesses." In a world hungry for true crime stories with neat conclusions, the case of Tyler Taylor stands apart, not just for its extraordinary twists and unlikely resolution, but for the questions it continues to raise about identity, truth, and the stories we tell ourselves about those who have left us. Every disappearance creates a void, and into that void we pour our fears, hopes, and speculations. Sometimes, rarely, that void is filled again by the return of what was lost. But even then, questions remain. Can we ever truly know another person's reasons? Can we forgive what we don't fully understand? And perhaps most importantly, if given the chance to disappear completely and reinvent ourselves, would we take it? For Tyler Taylor, that question had been answered twice. Once when he drove his car into Lake Champlain 11 years ago, and again when he chose to return to the life and family he had left behind. His story reminds us that sometimes the most compelling mysteries aren't about who committed a crime, but about the unfathomable depths of the human heart and the lengths to which it will go for protection, redemption, and love. And you, if faced with overwhelming danger to yourself and those you love, would you disappear? Create a new identity? Leave everything and everyone behind? And if you did, would you ever find your way back? Or would you, like Tyler nearly did, become a ghost in your own life, watching from a distance as those who loved you moved forward without you? These are questions without easy answers, questions that make the story of Tyler Taylor not just a sensational true crime case, but a mirror in which we glimpse our own capacity for drastic measures in desperate times.